Hello everyone. Welcome, fellow adventurers, to this here latest episode of Arcana Unearthed. A slight change of plan, actually, for those that have been following along with our recent episodes. I'd originally intended with this particular episode to take a look at the rules glossary from playtest packet number 5. But instead, as we are so far behind, I thought I'd skip over that, given that that's now out-of-date information anyway, and move forward with looking at the classes from playtest packet number 6. So as of right now, we are no longer necessarily behind. We're certainly playing catch-up. But yes, do get yourself comfortable as we settle in. I'm hoping that over the next hour or so we're going to be able to cover the Bard class and possibly some subclasses too, but we'll see how we get on in terms of time. So, if you are just joining us for the first time, my name is Wayne Ingram, and I am the Dungeon Master for Bardic Quest, our actual play show, and this is just a nice casual little chat that we like to do where we go through the latest playtest material in the Unearthed Arcana that has been released by Wizards of the Coast for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, formerly 1 D&D, as that's a whole other conversation for a whole other time that we don't have time to get into now. But essentially, this is the look at the playtest material as it stands. So, this is playtest packet number 6. We actually started doing this show only with playtest packet number 5. So, there's a lot of stuff that we've not yet covered. And actually, this playtest packet, of playtest packet number 6, actually covers a lot of a kind of second going over of some of the classes based off of the feedback that they've had from some of the surveys. Which, by the way, the survey for this playtest packet itself is actually going to be open until the 17th of August. So as you're listening to this, you've still got probably about 3 weeks. We probably won't get through all of the classes in that amount of time, but certainly the thoughts that we can give between now and then. You've got about 3 weeks to go fill out that survey, which really will help to shape the future of the game. So if there's anything you don't like, whether you agree with my opinions or not, hop on over to D&D Beyond and fill those out. Now, in terms of, in case you want to follow along with what we're talking about, you can download the playtest material for free from D&D Beyond. There is a link in the description, the doobly-doo, as Matt Coville likes to say. Or you can head on over to D&D Beyond. I don't think you need an account to access this, though I'm not sure. But accounts are free anyway. You're not giving money to Hasbro or Wizards of the Coast just for having an account. So anyway, hop onto D&D Beyond, log in if you have to. But if you don't have to, you should be able to go to Sources in the top menu and then Unearthed Arcana on the top left. Click into that and then you'll be able to see the different playtest packets, and we're looking at playtest 6. Again, for those that are new to the playtest material, what is playtest packet number 6 and what does it include? Well, first of all, playtest packet number 6 is actually the longest Unearthed Arcana they have ever released. Which is interesting because playtest 5 was previously the longest Unearthed Arcana that they have ever released at 50-odd pages. This one's, I believe, 60-odd pages. So there's a lot here and a lot to look at. So what's included in this playtest material, or this particular playtest packet? Well, we're looking at several classes, 7 to be precise. They are the Bard, which we'll be covering today, the Cleric, the Druid, the Monk, the Paladin, the Ranger, and the Rogue. Again, all of these, except for the Monk, have been released previously in previous playtest materials. The Monk, for some reason, which may become clear as we get to it in future episodes, was saved till last. Now, what's different between these classes versus the other versions that they've released, amongst many things, is that they are actually going to be releasing multiple subclasses for the first time. So far, they'd only released one subclass for each class in these Unearthed Arcanas. They are going to be releasing more. So each of the classes now features multiple subclasses, two of which are entirely new. One of which belongs to the Bard, which is the College of Dance, or Dance, depending on on your persuasion, and Circle of the Sea for the Druid class, which we will come to later as well. There are revised spells list and revised spells included in this one, and several revised feats that are included to support the included classes as well. The following sections were introduced in a previous article, previous version, and provided here for reference, which is the revised weapons table, which was featured in Playtest 6. You can watch our weapons mastery episode to get the rundown of those. And the rules glossary, which I was originally going to cover this episode, includes a few rules that have revised definitions in the playtest, which we will come to at a later date. The good thing is most of the actual core gameplay mechanics of 5th edition are remaining the same. They've been experimenting with a few things here and there. Some things I liked, some things I didn't. But it mostly seems to be remaining the same, other than some actions-based stuff, which I have alluded to in previous episodes, but haven't really had chance to cover in full detail with the rules glossary, so we might come to that later. I might break up the classes a little bit and do a rules glossary out of sequence, perhaps. I don't know, I haven't yet decided. Let's look at the Bard then, as advertised, and we'll compare it to the Bard as it exists currently in the 2014 Player's Handbook, which, for clarity, is this Player's Handbook, just in case anybody's confused. So yes, this is the 5th edition Player's Handbook, 2014 Player's Handbook, which is the only officially released Player's Handbook for 5th edition. We'll be comparing it to that version of the Bard rather than the playtest material from the previous playtest packets, mainly because we've not yet covered them on Arcana Unearthed. So as far as this show goes, this is the first time we're covering it, so it seems more appropriate to compare to the 2014 Player's Handbook. So let's have a look. So in terms of a Bard, building a Bard with the 2014 Player's Handbook, you would use Charisma usually as your highest ability score, your primary ability, which hasn't changed for the Bard. They still very much focus on Charisma, which I think makes complete sense. So, looking at the table here, the leveling table for Bards, I just want to cross-reference really the spells. I've been trying to get my software to share my screen so that you can follow along with these, but I am having a nightmare. There's a tick box somewhere that I think is actually in my computer settings that needs to be ticked, and I cannot find it for love nor money. Everywhere I've looked seems to say that it should be working, but it's not, so you'll have to forgive me for not sharing this on my on the stream for you. But I'm just kind of having a quick scan through, a very quick scan in terms of the leveling of spells, the progression that goes with the leveling of spells, and it doesn't seem to have particularly changed much, at least in terms of access to spell slots and spell levels. So that looks to be the same. Let's have a look at the design note updates that they have included in the playtest packet, because this usually gives you a heads up on some of the things that have changed. Now again, we've not covered the previous update, so some of this may seem slightly off, but which is why we're going to compare it to the 2014 Player's Handbook, just so you can keep up with the overall changes rather than the minutiae. So, here are the main updates to the class since its last playtest version, is what it says. So, Bardic Inspiration has returned to its 2014 form, so they've reverted it back, with the following changes. So, number 1, a Bardic Inspiration die, which is a d6 at first level, is used in response to failing a d20 test, which is the term that they use in the rules glossary for ability checks. Basically, anytime you roll a d20 to see if something succeeds or fails, that's what they're calling a d20 test. So a Bardic Inspiration die is now used in response to failing a d20 test. You no longer have to guess whether you failed. So I think, if memory serves, the previous version, you rolled it, you declared it beforehand. So you say, right, I'm going to use Bardic Inspiration, or use my Bardic Inspiration before you know whether or not you've succeeded or failed. Whereas with this now, once you have failed, that is when you add it. Which, I don't know. We'll see. And number 2, a creature has up to an hour, not just 10 minutes, to use it. That's good. Very helpful. The healing option in the previous Bard playtest has been removed, which was obviously something that they had added, because in playtesting the healing option was encouraging too much usage hoarding, which easily resulted in the Bard not using Bardic Inspiration at all. Not quite sure what they mean by that. I'm sure Jeremy Crawford covers that in detail in the Bard video that is available on YouTube. Spellcasting has 2 noteworthy changes. Now, this is the thing that's got me excited, which we will cover in a little bit more detail later. Number 1, each Bard gets to choose whether to use the Arcane, Divine, or Primal spell list. And 2, spell preparation is no longer tied to the level of your spell slots. The first change leans into the fact that a Bard might have learned their arts in an Arcane, a Divine, or a Primal context, and the second change was widely requested in the playtest feedback. Jack of all trades has now returned to 2nd level. Bard's subclass levels now match the level progression in the 2014 Bard, ensuring compatibility with subclasses already in print. So again, for those that are fairly new to looking at the Unearthed Arcana, what they were experimenting with was actually moving the Bard subclasses around to make sure that every Bard subclass was at 3rd level. Every subclass, sorry, for every class was at 3rd level. But sorry, this is something completely different. Forgive me. So the level progression on some classes has shifted around, and they were trying that around with a lot of the classes, mainly to make room for these ideas of bringing epic boons in at 20th level, which were previously something that were designed for 5th edition for use when characters reached or wanted to go beyond 20th level. They've now reversed that decision, and epic boons are now once again for post 20th level should people want them, which means then that the changes that they had to make to accommodate that in terms of the class progression has been changed. So now it means that the class progression for when classes get their subclass features, that has now been standardized, at least for the Bard and probably most of the other classes too. At least for the Bard has been standardized so that that backwards compatibility that they keep talking about for this update to 5th edition remains in place. Font of Inspiration has returned to 5th level and now also allows you to expend spell slots to use Bardic Inspiration if you're out of uses. Cool. Counter Charm returns and has been improved. It's now 7th level and can be used as a reaction rather than an action. Again, we'll come to that later. Magical Secrets has returned to 10th level and now affects your spell choice for all your later Bard levels. And Words of Creation is a new 20th level feature, replacing Epic Boon. Epic Boon feats will return in a future Unearthed Arcana, but they won't be built into a class's level progression, which is what I was just alluding to. So, now let's look at comparing the Bard in detail now. Now that we've kind of got those headlines, let's look in detail at how the Bard changes or has improved. Looking at the 2014 Player's Handbook, hit dice remain at 1d8. Your hit points at first level, therefore, remain at 8, plus your Constitution modifier. And hit points at higher levels equally remain at 1d8 or 5, plus your Constitution modifier per Bard level after first. So that remains the same. In terms of proficiencies, armor training. Light armor remains the same. That hasn't changed. Weapons. All simple weapons now, as opposed to simple weapons, hand crossbows, long swords, rapiers, and short swords. They've just limited it to simple weapons now. All of those additional martial weapons have now been taken out of the class proficiencies, which, if I'm honest with you, I think makes more sense. The idea that a bard, a performer, would be proficient in martial weapons always seemed a bit off to me. So I like the fact that they've simplified it. It removes... for some people, it will seem like a nerf, right? Because a lot of people like the idea of the bard being that jack of all trades, which it even has a class feature saying that. But I like the fact that at least the martial prowess has been left alone, because it just doesn't make sense to me for a bard to be that proficient in weaponry. Skills. You can now choose any 3... Oh, no, that remains the same. Any 3 skills of your choice, sorry. Saving throw proficiencies remain dexterity and charisma. And tools are still 3 musical instruments of your choice. So all of that has remained the same. When we look at the starting equipment, again, these things, as we've seen, have been simplified to remove the choice out of the situation in many ways. You now are basically given a choice of either you take 100 gold pieces and buy the equipment that you want, or take this recommended starting equipment packet of 2 daggers, an entertainer's pack, leather armor, a musical instrument of your choice, and 26 gold pieces. Again, I say it every time, but I kind of like the simplicity of this. Here's what we recommend, or you can buy your own. I think that in terms of onboarding for new players, just makes things nice and simple. So, we're about to get into the nitty-gritty of the Bard class, but before we do, I just wanted to do a little bit of a cheeky promo, because we are, and I specifically, am running Dragons of Stormwreck Isle as part of the Bardic Quest Adventurers Guild, which I host. It's a pay-to-play game on Wednesday evenings. We are still looking for another player to get this game up and running. So, if you want to join in and maybe learn Dungeons & Dragons, if you are new to it and have always wanted to dive in, then bardicquest.com/Stormwreck is going to be the place that you're going to want to go. This is a starting adventure. It probably is going to last in the region of 4 to 8 sessions, though, as with always with these things, it's very, very difficult to predict exactly how long it's going to be, because it all depends on how much shenanigans you get up to. But essentially, Dragons of Stormwreck Isle involves exploring the mysterious Stormwreck Isle, facing the various elemental threats that originate from the grave of an ancient dragon, investigation of a shipwreck, confronting the horrifying curse within, and of course, with a title like Dragons of Stormwreck Isle, a battle or two with a vengeful dragon. So, if battling dragons, exploring shipwrecks, and just generally playing Dungeons & Dragons is your thing, and you don't have a game table who are willing to play either Dragons of Stormwreck Isle or Dungeons & Dragons in general with you, then do check out bardicquest.com/Stormwreck, and I would be happy to welcome you to our table. So, let's get now into the Bardic class features, such as they are. So, again, a lot of the level progression now has been rematched to meet with the 2014 Player's Handbook level progression. So, first of all, Bardic Inspiration is a first level class feature that you get once again at first level, which remains the same. This is how Bardic Inspiration used to read. There's been a few updates to it, so I want to kind of go over it and just make sure that we're all up to speed, singing from the same proverbial hymn sheet. So, Bardic Inspiration, as it currently stands in the 2014 Player's Handbook, you can inspire others through stirring words or music. To do so, you use a bonus action on your turn to choose one creature other than yourself within 60 feet of you who can hear you. That creature gains 1 Bardic Inspiration die, a d6. Once within the next 10 minutes, the creature can roll the die and add the number rolled to one ability check, attack roll, or saving throw it makes. The creature can wait until after it rolls the d20 before deciding to use the Bardic Inspiration die, but must decide before the DM says whether the roll succeeds or fails. Once the Bardic Inspiration die is rolled, it is lost. A creature can only have 1 Bardic Inspiration die at a time. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your Charisma modifier, a minimum of once, and you regain any expended uses when you finish a long rest. Your Bardic Inspiration die changes when you reach certain levels in this class. The die becomes a d8 at 5th level, a d10 at 10th level, and a d12 at 15th. Okay. Now it reads thusly in the playtest packet. You can supernaturally inspire others through words, music, or dance. This inspiration is represented by your Bardic Inspiration die, which is a d6. Using Bardic Inspiration. As a bonus action, you can inspire another creature within 60 feet of yourself who can see or hear you. That creature gains 1 of your Bardic Inspiration dice. A creature can have only 1 Bardic Inspiration die at a time. Once within the next hour, when the creature fails a d20 test, the creature can roll that die and add the number rolled to the d20, potentially turning the failure into a success. A Bardic Inspiration die is expended when it is rolled. Number of uses. You can confer a Bardic Inspiration die a number of times equal to your Charisma modifier, a minimum of once, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. At higher levels, your Bardic Inspiration die changes when you reach certain Bard levels as shown in the Bardic die column of the Bard table. The die becomes a d8 at 5th level, a d10 at 10th level, and a d12 at 15th level. Actually, not all that much in the way of changes here. The main thing being now, as was said in the headlines, that it now triggers when you fail, or when the creature who has the Bardic die, the Bardic Inspiration die, when they fail a d20 test. The other thing being that actually it also counts when a creature can see you too, which I think is to accommodate for things like the College of Dance, which is being introduced here. And I think that makes sense. Because yes, I suppose you could inspire somebody even if they can't hear you, particularly if you are a dancer. That would make sense, I suppose. My main thing here is I do like the change for it now being triggered when they fail. It separates it out, I think, from standard inspiration in a way, even though it's not the same anyway mechanically because it's only a d6 rather than granting advantage. But also I think thematically it makes a lot more sense because you've then got a situation where the bard is saying... I can picture it. They look like they're failing the task. They're a little bit. The wind's being taken out of their sails, and then you've got the bard going, come on, you can do it, I believe in you, and it just gives it that little bit of a push. I think for me, it just allows for a little bit more role-playing opportunity by having it triggered on a failure. So I like that change. It does kind of soup up the power of the Bardic Inspiration as well, I suppose, because it now means that it's not going to be wasted necessarily unless you roll a 1, in which case, wah, 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 wah. But yes, I mean, aside from that, it's not likely going to be wasted, is it? So, that's the Bardic Inspiration. I think a small improvement, but a worthwhile improvement. Now we're going to be looking at spell casting. I don't know if I'm going to read the entire thing of the 2014 Player's Handbook here, because it's long, as the spell casting class feature usually is. So this is what they're proposing in the playtest material that I am reading from today. And this is really interesting, and I will explain why I'm very excited about this in a minute. So, the proposed changes are thus. You have learned to cast spells through your bardic arts. See the Player's Handbook for rules on spellcasting. The information below details how you use those rules as a bard. Chosen spell list. At first level, choose a spell list, arcane, divine, or primal. The chosen list is your bard's spell list and represents the magical tradition in which you learned your bardic arts. Whichever list you choose, it includes the Vicious Mockery cantrip for you. So, I'm just going to stop here. There's more to come, but this for me is a biggie. So, I've been looking at the Bard with great interest recently, for reasons I can't divulge. But I've been looking at it with a lot of interest. And one of the problems I've always had with the Bard is it's never, for me, truly made sense for the Bard to be an arcane spellcaster. It's always felt a little bit wrong to me. Because, for me, arcane spellcasting's a funny one, because, for me, you have divine spellcasting, which is powered by the gods, primal spellcasting, which is powered by nature, and arcane spellcasting, which is, well, because of the bard's inclusion in arcane spellcasting, it's basically everything else. Whereas, by putting it on the wizard, the warlock, and the sorcerer, you're kind of dealing with arcane spellcasting becomes a little bit more about the manipulation of reality, whether that be through dark arts, whether that be through pure charisma, or whether that be from the studying the sciences and the art itself of spellcasting. The bard has always felt to me more suited to the primal spellcasting. Because music is very much found in nature in its own kind of way. Performative words or sounds are equally very nature-driven. And equally, you could argue, so is dance, which is something that they're looking to focus on now. And in fact, if you look at even primitive civilizations, dance, music, and even ancient civilizations such as, the Greeks, to a degree, there's a huge history of performance in all of those sorts of cultures as well. And so to me, it feels as though music is much more a natural thing that humans and the other races of the multiverse are drawn to. And so to me, it comes from a very different place than arcane. So from a thematic perspective, I'm really liking that they are allowing you to choose now, because for me, like a primal bard would be so cool. And again, If you follow along with Bardic Quest, you might understand why I'm looking at that in detail in the not too distant future. Little teaser there. So, I think that's a big game changer. I think it's really cool. You may think it's a non-thing, but I got very, very excited when I heard that that was something that they were looking to change. So, cantrips then. So, you know 2 cantrips of your choice from your Bard spell list. Which is the spell list that you've chosen, your chosen spell list. Whenever you gain a Bard level, you can replace one of your cantrips with another cantrip of your choice from the Bard spell list. Not a fan. I've talked about that in other ones. When you reach 4th or 10th level in this class, you learn another cantrip of your choice from your Bard spell list as shown in the cantrips column of the Bard table. That remains essentially the same, other than the option to swap them out, which is something that they're doing a lot at the moment, and I'm not a fan. Not a fan. But obviously, a lot of people are liking it because it's appeared in this playtest material too. So, you know, I will have to go with the consensus. But for me, just let those choices stay permanent and make somebody work for changing them and rebuilding their character. Characters have got enough options as it is. Make the choices matter. Make them important. Anyway. So, spell slots. The Bard table shows how many spell slots you have to cast your spells of 1st level and higher. To cast one of these spells, you must expend a spell slot of the spell's level or higher. You regain all expended spell slots when you finish a long rest. So again, that kind of remains pretty much the same, and I think from my quick scan, the level progression remains the same too in terms of spell slots and what's available to you. Prepared spells of 1st plus level. You prepare the list of spells of 1st level and higher that are available for you to cast with this feature. To start, choose 4 1st level spells from your Bard spell list. The number of spells on your list also increases as you gain Bard levels, as shown in the prepared spells column of the Bard table. Whenever that number increases, choose additional spells from your Bard spell list until the number of spells on your list matches the number on the table. The chosen spells must be of a level for which you have spell slots. For example, if you're a 3rd level Bard, your list of prepared spells can include 6 spells of 1st or 2nd level in any combination. If another Bard feature gives spells that you always have prepared, these spells don't count against the number of spells in your list prepared with this spellcasting feature, but those spells otherwise follow the rules in this feature. I really don't understand why they're leaning into this this wording. Why not just, every time they give you a class feature which says it's always prepared, just put the little footnote in there. Like this thing about it has to match the number in the table, but it doesn't have to match the number in the table if you've got this other thing. It's just really unclear to newbies. Like, I get it. I've been playing the game for long enough, but that's just too much confusing bookkeeping. But of course, if you run it on D&D Beyond, the bookkeeping handles itself, which of course is what they're gonna want you to do. It's hard not to be cynical about Hasbro these days. All right. So changing your prepared spells. Whenever you gain a Bard level, you can replace one spell on your list with another spell for which you have spell slots, and that is on your Bard spell list. Fine. Again, just make the choices matter. I understand you then don't have to ask your GM permission to re-level some things, but I prefer it if the choices mattered, Spellcasting ability, charisma is your spellcasting ability, spellcasting focus. You can use a musical instrument as your spellcasting focus for the spells you cast with your Bard features. Lovely. All pretty much as it was with the 2014 Player's Handbook, which is why I didn't mention it. Interestingly, though, it looks as though the Bard has lost the ability to ritual cast. Very interesting. I mean, the bard can do enough anyway. The bard players out there are going to be like, no, don't you nerf my bard. Okay. So, now we have expertise at level 2. Which was previously 3rd level, which is interesting. So, as it read in the 2014 Player's Handbook, expertise at 3rd level. Choose 2 of your skill proficiencies. Your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check you make that uses either of the chosen proficiencies. At 10th level, you can choose another 2 skill proficiencies to gain this benefit. Now it reads thus. You gain expertise in 2 of your skill proficiencies of your choice. Performance and persuasion are iconic choices for a bard if you have proficiency in them. So it's giving you some options. It's not explicitly stating that you're going to get expertise again. So interestingly, what they've done is they have kind of tried to simplify the language here. I'm just going to quickly skim to the rules glossary. Because they are referencing expertise now rather than just saying you get skills proficiency. They're calling out expertise as a game feature. So expertise is a special feature that enhances your use of a particular skill proficiency. If you gain expertise, you gain it in one skill in which you have proficiency. You can never have expertise in the same skill proficiency more than once. When you make an ability check with a skill proficiency in which you have expertise, your proficiency bonus is doubled for that check. So, mechanically speaking, it ultimately remains the same. But what they've done is they've tried to simplify it so that it's easier and more uniform, which is a continued theme that we are seeing throughout all of this. Is the simplification and the unification, standardization of some of the language to make it easier to consume and easier to understand. I don't know if actually not explaining what expertise is within the class feature makes it easier. I mean, I'm not a game designer. So, you know, the guys at Wizard of the Coast have more experience than I, but to me, I don't know if that is necessarily better. But at the same time, I kind of like the fact that they're utilizing keywords a little bit more. And then obviously they're giving you some recommended options. So also at 2nd level, you get Jack of all trades, which was a 2nd level feature before. So, starting at 2nd level, you can add half your proficiency bonus rounded down to any ability check you make that doesn't already include your proficiency bonus. So, Jack of all trades, essentially half proficiency on everything that you're not proficient in. So, this is how it reads in the new playtest material. You can add half your proficiency bonus round down to any ability check you make that uses a skill proficiency you lack and that doesn't otherwise use your proficiency bonus. For example, you can make a strength athletics check and lack athletics proficiency. You can add half your proficiency bonus to the check. Cool. Exactly the same mechanically, but slightly different in wording. At 3rd level, you gain your Bard subclass, which, again, matches the 2014 Player's Handbook as we talked about at the top of the episode. You gain a Bard subclass of your choice: College of Dance, College of Glamour, College of Law, or College of Valor. Subclasses are detailed after this class's description. A subclass is a specialization that grants special abilities at certain Bard levels. For the rest of your career, you gain each of your subclasses feature that are of your Bard level and lower. Fine. 4th level, ability score improvement. You gain the ability score improvement feat or another feat of your choice for which you qualify. Interesting. So, now this is interesting because they've reworded this again and brought it back in line with the 2014 Player's Handbook. Because what they were saying before... Was Playtest Packet 5 the case with that as well? I can't remember, you know. I'm pretty sure with Playtest Material 5, they were just like, it's a feat. And if you want to take the feat in which you improve your ability score, then fine, take that. And I remember when this first came out, the 1 D&D as it was referred to then, one of the things that they were saying was, oh well, we're that has changed back. They were saying, well, we're now making it so that the default opinion is that you're going to take a feat, and that the ability score improvement feat is just one of many feats. But now they're kind of reversing that a little bit and going back to this idea of the ability score improvement, or a feat if you want it. I'd love to know why. I have a sneaking suspicion it is about the rebranding of 1D&D back to just the next iteration of 5th edition, rather than this idea that it might be a somewhat new edition. And so by changing it back to ability score improvement, that then brings it more in line, so that backwards compatibility that they were insistent was going to be there from day one is absolutely definitely there now. It's really hard. I am struggling, Hasbro, to not be cynical about some of this, because there's definitely some backtracking going on. Like I don't know how much you believed that 1D&D was going to be backwards compatible. I'm struggling. I'm struggling, Hasbro. Make it easier for me. So, Font of Inspiration at 5th level. Where's my Bard 2014 gone? Font of Inspiration currently says in the 2014 Player's Handbook, beginning when you reach 5th level, you regain all of your expended uses of Bardic Inspiration when you finish a short or long rest. Now it reads, you now also regain all your expended uses of Bardic Inspiration when you finish a short rest. In addition, if you have no uses of Bardic Inspiration left, you can give yourself one. Let me try that again. In addition, if you have no uses of Bardic Inspiration left, you can give yourself one use by expending a spell slot. No action required. You can do so only once per turn. Okay, cool. They've reworded the thing about the short rests, but then they're also allowing you to burn spell slots in order to gain those back, which was referenced in that design notes at the beginning. At 6th level, you gain a subclass feature from your subclass of choice. And at 7th level, you gain Counter Charm, which was, I think, taken out from the previous playtest based on the design notes that they gave us, but they've now brought it back in. It was at 6th level before in the 2014 Player's Handbook, and now it is 7th level. So, Counter Charm used to read thusly. At 6th level, you gain the ability to use musical notes or words of power to disrupt mind-influencing effects. As an action, you can start a performance that lasts until the end of your next turn. During that time, you and any friendly creatures within 30 feet of you have advantage on saving throws against being frightened or charmed. A creature must be able to hear you to gain this benefit. The performance ends early if you are incapacitated or silenced, or if you voluntarily end it. No action required. Now it reads thusly. You can use musical notes or words of power to disrupt mind-influencing effects. If you or a creature within 30 feet of you fails a saving throw against an effect that applies the charmed or frightened condition, you can use your reaction to cause the save to be re-rolled, and the new roll has advantage. Interesting. They've tweaked, certainly... Oh, I'm throwing my dice everywhere. They've tweaked, certainly, the idea now of font of inspiration, so that it's less... It's more based off of reaction and failure, kind of like Bardic Inspiration is now applied to Counter Charm. So it's now used as a reaction rather than an action, which I think is good. It's nice for the action economy. I think having an action in order to grant somebody advantage on a saving throw against being frightened or charmed, whilst useful, isn't actually that efficient in terms of the bard's action economy generally. Because in many ways you could use the help action to give people advantage on a certain task, although technically speaking that wouldn't necessarily be on saving throws per se. But it didn't feel like quite enough of a boon, certainly to be worthy of 6th level. So taking that out of the main on-turn action economy and putting it into a reaction, I think certainly makes Counter Charm feel much more dynamic, certainly much more useful, and also thematically, given the fact that it's called Counter Charm, makes more sense with the name, much in the way of counterspell and the like. So I think that's a good change. I'm a fan of that. At 8th level, we return to ability score improvement, or another feat if you want to take a feat, because don't forget about the feats. And then at 9th level, you gain expertise once again, which was the same before, though that was at 10th level. Except now they're obviously referring it to expertise as a feature rather than just, oh, you can add expertise proficiency to 2 of your skills. Double your proficiency on 2 of those. So they've just kind of separated it out. It's essentially the same, essentially reworded. 10th level, Magical Secrets. So this is how it read in the 2014 Player's Handbook. By 10th level, you have plundered magical knowledge from a wide spectrum of disciplines. Choose 2 spells from any classes, including this one. A spell you choose must be of a level you can cast, as shown on the Bard table, or a cantrip. The chosen spells count as Bard spells for you, and are included in the number of the spells known column of the Bard table. You learn 2 additional spells from any classes at 14th level, and again at 18th level. So, this is how it reads now. Much shorter, a little bit more simplified perhaps. You have collected magical knowledge from a wide spectrum of disciplines. As a result, your Bard spell list now includes the Arcane, Divine, and Primal spell lists. Oh! I mean, in some ways that's less powerful because you're not actually learning new spells until obviously you hit 10th level, so you can pick those spells. But I mean, that now basically opens up every single spell list for every level going forward, whereas before it was limited to spell lists that were choosing spells at 10th level and 14th level and 18th level, whereas now it's obviously moving then forward up to being in the position of every single level from now on you can pick completely out of that spell list from any spell list, Arcane, Divine or Primal. So, at 12th level... Excuse me one moment. I'm not entirely sure. Some neighbours are up to something. Strange. At 12th level, you gain the ability score improvement. Again, you can choose a feat if you like. 14th level, you gain a subclass feature for your Bard subclass, or from your Bard subclass. At 16th level, an ability score improvement. And then at 18th level, Superior Inspiration. So, Superior Inspiration was previously 20th level, the capstone feature for the Bard. has now been moved to 18th level. So the capstone feature for the Bard, which was previously 20th level, read thusly. When you roll initiative and have no uses of bardic inspiration left, you regain 1 use. Oh, generous. How superbly powerful for a Bard at 20th level. I think not. So now they're bringing it down to 18th level. And they've made it better. When you roll initiative and have no uses of bardic inspiration left, you regain 2 expended uses of it. An improvement, to say the least. And also reduced down in level, which I think is the right choice because, quite frankly, 1 use of bardic inspiration when you roll initiative for a 20th level class feature was stingy as hell. So now they've improved it somewhat, 18th level and 2 expended uses, which is good. We like this. 19th level, ability score improvement. And then at 20th level, words of creation. You have mastered 2. This is a new class feature, by the way. This is the new capstone 20th level feature. You have mastered 2 of the prime words of creation. The words of life and death. You therefore always have the power word heal and power word kill spells prepared. And when you cast either spell, you can target a second creature with the spell, provided that creature is within 10 feet of the first target. Okay. Let me just see. Do we have spells in this playtest material? Has that been updated at all? Power word, power word, power words. Power word. Power word, power... Oh, no, that's feats. Power word, power word. Okay, power word heal. This is how it reads in the playtest material. Power word heal, 9th level enchantment spell. Divine. Range, 60 feet. A wave of healing energy washes over a creature you can see within range. The target regains all its hit points. All? Wow. If the creature has the charmed, dazed, frightened, paralyzed, or stunned condition, the condition ends. If the creature has the prone condition, it can use its reaction to stand up. Power word kill. Arcane. 9th level enchantment. 60 feet range. You utter a word of power that can compel 1 creature you can see within range to die instantly. If the creature you choose has 100 hit points or fewer, it dies. Otherwise, the target takes 12d12 psychic damage, which would be a maximum, naturally, of 144 damage. Whoa. Okay. So, you get to cast those. Either of those, is it? Scroll back, scroll back, scroll back. You get to cast either of those. You always have them prepared. When you cast either of them, you actually get to target 2 people. So you can fully heal somebody, 2 people, or you can absolutely kill 2 people, so long as their hit points are less than 100. Which at 20th level is probably going to be fairly few. But still, that could be powerful in the right situation. Certainly OP if you're... Not OP, but rather powerful if you are in fact dealing with some of the lesser powerful NPCs who might wield perhaps some more political power than necessarily unlimited power, such as the Emperor. So, that is the overall view, such as it is, of the Bard subclass. No. Excuse me. I need more caffeine. Oh, that's gone cold. The Bard class. Sorry. Not the Bard subclass, the Bard class. It has taken me a while to get through. I've really been taking a attempt to not power read through these and go 100 miles an hour just so it's easier to take in. So it has taken a little bit longer. So, my thoughts overall on the Bard now. To be honest with you, nothing really mind-blowing here, if I'm honest. It kind of feels like they've really dialed things back. I remember listening to Bardic Twinspiration podcast. They were going through some of the playtest material quite early on. Their output seems to have slowed down. I should probably connect with them and see what's going on. See if there's any news from them. Yeah, they were very, very excited for the new Bard, which I think was one of the first classes to get released. They seemed very excited because the Bard seemed as though he'd been completely souped up, and it seems as though they've tried to kind of bring some of that back and backpedal on some of it. Again, I think that's mostly to do with backwards compatibility rather than necessarily player feedback, if I'm honest. I like the Words of Creation feature. That feels to me like an appropriate feature for a class to be getting at 20th level for sure. For me, the biggest thing is this idea now of the Bard being starting as either divine, primal, or arcane. I think that is genius, because again, thematically, I've always felt like a Bard is more appropriate to being like a primal spellcaster, because of where the power of music comes from. It doesn't come from a magical force. It really is a natural sensation that occurs in the world in some way, shape, or form. So it always made more sense for it to be primal. Now you have that option. You can equally make it divine. It feeds in nicely to the Bard being a kind of jack of all trades again. So thematically that works. I really like the change to Bardic Inspiration as well. I love the fact that it's a reaction now. A reaction to, because it's not actually a reaction, mechanically speaking, but it's a response to a failed D20 test or check, which just makes so much more sense and is going to make things smoother, because then the Bard's not having to guess. And I think that's probably why they have included the increase in the time that it lasts for. Because now you're relying on a failure so as to not just burn the whole thing. And I suppose in that period of an hour, you're much more likely to encounter a failure than in simply 10 minutes. Which, if you're exploring around a dungeon, 10 minutes can simply be one room, which, might not be enough to risk burning that precious D6 on so early on. So I like that. I like a lot of it. It's all very small changes though. Nothing major. I would have perhaps liked something a little bit more bold, but then equally, do you know what? That backwards compatibility thing for me with 5th edition, as much as I keep having a pop at Hasbro for making me feel a bit cynical about it, I do think it is quite important for that backwards compatibility to still stay in place. So the fact that they are now backpedaling a few things in order to preserve that backwards compatibility, for me, that's a win. And it's now minor changes on the Bard class, so good to see. So next time, because I'm going to wrap up now, we'll have a look at the Bard subclasses, which are, for reference, the College of Dance, the College of Glamour, and a revisit to the College of Law and the College of Valor. As we look at all of these, the College of Dance is actually a brand new subclass, so I'm going to be looking forward to diving into that and seeing exactly what it is that the College of Dance means mechanically. It's a nice addition. It always feels right that they've introduced it now, given the fact that every other performative art form is kind of covered by the Bard except for dancers. I have plenty of dancer friends as a performing professional, so nice to see them getting some representation in the Unearthed Arcana, which we'll cover next time. But just before we go, just a reminder again, bardicquest.com/play. We are running a adventurers guild in which we are I am offering my services as a Dungeon Master to members of the public in pay-to-play D&D games. So if you don't have a Dungeons and Dragons group, and you are looking to explore any of these adventures, and any more in the future as well, check out bardicquest.com/play. You can see a list of all of the ones that we are currently running, which actually includes these: Lost Mine of Phandelver, Tyranny of Dragons, and the new one that we're going to be launching next Wednesday. We're just waiting for one more player, Dragons of Stormwreck Isle, Wednesday evenings, beginning hopefully this week with Session 0. bardicquest.com/play to see the selection of games that we're running, and check us out there. So that's it from me for this episode of Arcana Unearthed. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope you are enjoying these. I'm hoping to get some more regular guests, because it is always much better when you've got somebody to bounce these ideas off. So I am going to be reaching out to a few people, because the rest of us, Bardic Quest cast and crew, we are professional performers too, which comes with it an unpredictable work schedule, which has made it pretty tricky to get some of the other cast members on to join me for some of these episodes. So I'm going to start reaching out a little bit further and a little bit wider to the wider TTRPG network. So I'm hoping to get some more guests lined up so that we can shoot the proverbial shit as we explore this Unearthed Arcana that's coming out from Wizards of the Coast. But until then, thanks very much for tuning in, and I will catch you next Monday at 3 p.m. British summertime, or UK time. So don't forget as well, before I go, don't forget as well, our actual play is back this Thursday with a new chapter. We are running The Lost Mine of Phandelver as part of our actual play, and the cast, or the party, are making their way now to Wave Echo Cave for what is going to be Chapter 6, Wave Echo Cave, of our first Bardic Quest campaign. So that is happening Thursday, live premiere on our YouTube channel, this Thursday, the 27th of July at 4 p.m. UK time, and then obviously available to stream on demand after that. So don't forget to check that out. Really excited as things start to come to a head a little bit more. So yes, I forgot to mention that. Glad I got that in just before I went. So yes, thanks for tuning in, folks, and I will see you for the next episode of Arcana Unearthed on Monday at 3 p.m. Thanks, guys, and I will catch you later.